Good to see your face again. Good to see you again. Good to see you again. Edgar, wonderful. Mexico, you're in Mexico today. Wonderful. Angel in Malaysia, beautiful. Great. So we definitely have Asia represented. We have Mexico, South America represented. Beautiful. US, East Coast, West Coast. Beautiful. Great. All right. You guys still hearing me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you're hearing me okay. And definitely want to know why you're here. All right, cool. All right. So while you're sharing with us why you're here, I want to welcome you to Projectland, or welcome you back to Projectland, or maybe like me and Bill, you live in Projectland all the time. And so what is Projectland? I get asked that a lot. Projectland is how I described the world of projects to a client when I was trying to help them understand that the world of projects is very different than the world of operations. Some people call that day-to-day work, your day job, or if it's not a project, or even run the business, some people have called it. So I call it Projectland because the rules here are different. It's like a whole different country or a different planet, even Projectland. And it just started to really help people understand that, hey, the rules are different here. And we cannot assume that the world of projects has the same rules as operations. And in fact, in many cases, when we assume that, it can really backfire. So that's why I call it Projectland, and that's why we're doing this series. You may have seen, and I know some of you are regular attendees of some of our other Projectland series, including emotional intelligence, design thinking, which I saw, we have folks dialing in from Asia. We had JK Chua, who's our colleague over in Singapore, join us for design thinking in Projectland. And we had AI in Projectland with MIT guru John Hack. So, and we had certifications in Projectland with Coach Crystal, who is amazing. That one was a lot of fun. We got really real about certifications in Projectland on that one. So Ricardo is dialing in from Venezuela. Ricardo's our wonderful producer. Ricardo, when you get a chance to put the page link in the notes for everybody about how to get to all those other recordings, that would be awesome. And we will be adding this one, of course, to that page once it renders with Bill tonight. So if you're new to Projectland, don't worry, we're going to make this easy and fun. And I just want to welcome you back to Projectland here with us. Thanks so much for being part of our community here. So this is me. Hi, I am Dawn Mahan. That's when I was on an actual real stage with real people in the audience. In that picture, I have led a PMO in the Fortune 500 as an employee, and otherwise I've basically been a consultant for my entire career. And I love being a consultant and working with folks around the world in different industries, different countries, and so forth. You can see here, I have a course on Udemy, and if you stick around till the end, I'm going to tell you how to maybe even win a free lifetime pass to my course on Udemy. So stay tuned there. I'm also working on a book. Some of you have been part of my manuscript reading sessions where you give feedback, you get insights into what it's like to try to be an author. And Bill is, as you'll see, is a pro at that. So we'll hear more about that. And in a moment when I introduce our very special guru guest, Bill. And so if you want to be part of those manuscript reading sessions in the future, if you love books like I do, and you want to get incited and get your name in a book, please go to our Contact Us page on PMOtraining.com, and you'll get to be part of the newsletter where we announce our very VIP guest only special manuscript readings. So I'll be scheduling another one of those very soon. So just a little bit about me. Again, thank you for being part of our community. Thank you for being here tonight. And if you are a PMP, you will get PDUs for attending this. You can claim PDUs for sure for attending this session tonight. And so without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Bill Dow, who has many letters behind his name beyond these on LinkedIn, as you'll see. So please follow Bill on LinkedIn. He's got so much knowledge and experience to share with us. He too is an international speaker. As you can see, he's based in Seattle on the West Coast. So thank you for those of you who are giving him some love from the West Coast as well. And he has authored 6 books. I'm trying to get just one out, Bill. So tell us a little bit about why you love Projectland.
Yeah, just absolutely love it. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be here. I really appreciate it. This is a picture of me in London, England on the stage. So it's I wanted to share that as well. I just really love sharing. I love, teaching. I love being able to share. I have 30 plus years of project management experience, and I just love helping people. I think there's a lot of people at the beginning of the funnel and really new to project management and new to learning. And so really excited to share some best practices, share some of my 30 years of being in this space.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And we always have a great time speaking together. So I can't wait to just kind of have a chat with you, with all of our friends here listening in and chiming in. So everybody, please, as you have questions or comments, please put them in the chat, and we'll be doing our best to watch out for those, and we'll try to catch any questions we don't ask or we're not able to answer at the end. So don't worry if we don't get to it while you ask it. We will try to weave it in at the end. So today we'll be talking about top pain points in Projectland, why we're in this situation, and give you some thoughts for how you might be able to avoid altogether so you don't get into these messes, or get out of the situations if you're in them now. And we'd love to hear from you. What other pain points are you seeing? Are you seeing these pain points as well? If you are experiencing one of the pain points that we present, please say me too. Please say yes, absolutely, amen, or however you want to express yourself. You are welcome to here. We love having the interaction and knowing what's happening for you. We want to support you, and we want you to know that we are here for you. And in all of these cases, I'm quite sure Bill and I have both experienced the pain more than once ourselves. So we are with you, and certainly want to answer your questions live too. So with that, Bill, how do we want to talk about this as far as research and what, where we're going with this idea of pain in Projectland?
Yeah. So again, it's crazy that we're still in this world. But when we first talked about kind of sharing, what we wanted to say was, look at surveys on why projects fail. And what happens is a lot of these same common points come up. And so when we talked about doing this talk, we said problems that people are facing, and then how do we help them kind of walk through some of those and give them some possible solutions. We can't give you every solution. Every company and every project's different, but we can give you some guardrails to kind of drive you forward and try to hope you can avoid some of those things.
Perfect. Yeah, and I agree. It's like, how long have we been at this collectively? Over 50 years easily, right? Together. And I feel like there are so many organizations that are still very low in their maturity and in Projectland, and they need these, tools and techniques and thought leaders that are definitely on the line. I see many of you are thought leaders in your lines of business and what you do in your places of work. And you can lead conversations about how to avoid this kind of pain, or you can lead by example. So hopefully we can give you some great tips here. So I mentioned I was in Hawaii, so I definitely loved this photo. So just a little one here with surfing, because there's that quote about how, you cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And that's the thing about pain in Projectland. It's going to happen. You're going to experience pain in Projectland. Why? Because this is a totally different world. And in fact, the definition of a project includes that a project is unique, which means in the history of the world, this has never been done before in this time, in this place. So of course, there will be challenges. That's one of the things that I actually love about Projectland, because I get bored a little easily. And so it's always a new day, always interesting. There's always something to learn, problems to solve. So here are some of the pain points we're going to cover today. These, Bill and I felt, were very popular with, our own experiences working with many clients and coachees and folks in our classes, around the world. So we're gonna talk through these. So any of you that are listening, maybe driving and you're not, able to see this, I'm just going to read them off. managing multiple projects. So many people are managing multiple projects and you don't get to just manage one. And if you are managing one, it's because it's a beast. So then you've got multiple projects probably in work streams and so forth underneath it. Two is team members working on multiple projects, also causing its own challenges. So now we start to see the Rubik's Cube here. Estimating, we're continuously bad at estimating, right? We'll talk about that. And then there's the, well, how do you do the project, right? Are you doing it in a waterfall way? What about Agile? Is your organization embraced Agile or not? Or are you dealing with a hybrid situation? And what should we do? So we'll talk about that. And number 5, keeping people engaged. So you might have heard about this quiet quitting phenomenon, right? And that's real for sure. I've experienced that now myself. And we also have a bonus tip to be revealed later, as well as a summary of some of the key threads that are weaving through a number of these. So stay tuned for the sort of summary key threads as well. Bill, do you want to?
Don, yeah, we're
Yeah.
seeing in the chat that people are
Mhm.
adding some additional things around maturity, lack of maturity, and stakeholder. We could have gone all day with this list, right?
Yes.
We only had an hour. We said, let's say the top 5, but we know we haven't nailed them all. But these are very relevant and very topical because they're what people are experiencing today, especially with COVID and all the various remoteness that we're in. But we know that there's a lot of smart people that will create different items or things that we didn't cover. We could be here all night.
Yeah, we sure could. That it was tough. There were some tough choices we had to make in putting our little list together here so that we weren't here all night. And so what I'd encourage you to do as you're participating is check out what some of the other people have mentioned as their pain and give it a thumbs up if you agree. If you're like, yep, me too. I may also have experienced that pain so that they know that they're not alone. That would be a wonderful gift to them that you can give. And also let us know which ones you guys are experiencing the most. So that would be really helpful for us because we may need to do a part 2 of this if there are a number of extra votes that really need to be addressed. Okay, so great. So thanks for that, Bill, for pointing that out. Excellent, excellent. All right. So let's dive into it, shall we? So number 1, managing multiple projects at the same time. Bill, what's
so
happening
let's just level
today?
set. So we're going to talk about the problem. We're going to talk about why we're in this situation, and then what are some possible solutions. And again, we're trying to give our experiences, our backgrounds. We don't have it all nailed, but we're trying to give you the directional on that. And so let's just talk about managing multiple projects, right? Long gone are the days where you're just getting one project, unless, like you said, unless it's a beast, unless it's just this massive project, and that's really all that you can take. So what are some of the problems with that, right? And so one of the things we have to start with context switching, project to the next project to the next project. We don't often think about that. And so when managers are assigning project managers these multiple projects, they're not factoring in that project managers working on this one, then switching to this one, then switching to that one. They're not factoring that in. They're just saying, how many can we do? How many can you load? Let's load another one on. We really have to think that's a huge problem, is this switching between projects. The other thing is leadership without authority. I love that one. That is one I've been talking about for years. As a project manager, it's a huge problem if you don't nail this skill set. You are not, in a lot of cases, the functional manager, the hire fire manager. So you need to have leadership without authority skills so you can really work with these resources to get them work a little bit longer, have them do that little extra task, right? And so that relationship building that you will get with leadership without authority is a huge component of really working in this managing multiple project scenario. Why are we in this? Like, why? It's mainly because with COVID, we have years of backup, right? We talked about 2 years of pent up demand. There are so many projects that we haven't been able to do that we're just like, let's just dump them onto the project managers. Let's just get them going. Are you experiencing that, Don? Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. There is pent up demand. And then there's also the issue of some people are still trying to figure out, well, how do I manage in a virtual world when I'm used to being able to go down the hall and knock on somebody's door and basically sit on their desk until they address my situation I need them to address for my project. So it is definitely a challenge
Yeah.
with not only, managing multiple projects at the same time, but then how do you manage your time where a little differently because you're virtual.
Yeah. And with the remoteness and the leadership without authority, that has just made that much more difficult as well, right? Because it's much more difficult in that remote environment, especially if they don't turn the camera on, especially if there's no in-person meetings, right? It's just so much harder to connect.
It is. And I'll tell you what, between us, frenzy, when you even ask people, please put your camera on, it helps me serve you better. It helps me connect with you better. It helps me make sure that you're getting what you need from me. And they don't do it. It's like, I don't want to see myself on camera either. I hate seeing myself on camera, but you know what? I had to get used to it. And now I have developed relationships with people over the past several years where I feel totally connected with them, and I've never met them in person, and it's all because of the camera.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
It does. So if folks, as you influence without authority, if you're somebody also like me that doesn't like to see herself on camera, then please get over it as quickly as possible and turn that camera on and just be like, I'm having a bad hair day today. I'm in Hawaii. It's raining. It's, a little puffed out more than usual. Oh, well, right. That's the state of affairs. So what are some possible solutions for folks in this situation, Bill?
Yeah, we can't drain them all, obviously. What we wanted to do was really kind of put some key ones out there. The first is getting organized. I can't stress enough, right? You have to be organized. When you go from project A to project B to project C, you've got to know where your OneNotes are, your SharePoint, your project schedules, your risk and your issues, right? They've all got to be set up. They've got to be consistent. And that's really going to help you be organized. And that's where that repeatable process comes in. Right? Same SharePoint site, same team site, same project schedules, right? And so having that repeatable process set up is really going to allow you to be able to switch and manage these multiple projects at the same time and help you be successful as you are trying to drive each of those projects.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, and here I want to talk about the apprenticeship model a little bit. So the apprenticeship model for project managers, just like for plumbers and electricians and any trade where you really, really learn by doing. So in the case of managing multiple projects at the same time, if you're a senior person, what I'd encourage you to do is think about, is there talent on your project, on one or more of your projects that you can grow, that you can leverage to help you do some of the things that really your leadership level doesn't need to do, like manage the issues tracker, right? And run after people and just make sure that, they know what they need to do when they need to do it, type of thing. Run down some of these things, schedule meetings, like do some other stuff where they, someone who's ambitious and interested in becoming a project manager can get their feet wet a little bit, and you can mentor them and also get some help at the same time, because I really believe that we learn by observing other PMs and how they do things and taking mental notes. Like oh, I love how Bill did that. I'm taking a mental note. I would want to emulate that. Or I hate how Dawn did that, and I would never want to do that. Right. Like, so I feel like the apprenticeship model can be a way for you to help develop the talent in your organization and get help in situations like managing multiple projects. Bill, what's your feeling on the apprenticeship model?
Yeah, 100%. You know, we actually had project coordinators, and we've done that project coordinator role. And I just absolutely love that, right? Junior people that are trying to get into the project management industry, that you hook them up with a senior project manager, risks, issues, actions, decisions, but they're just learning and they're just dying to learn this information and dying to learn this amazing job, amazing career. So I love that model for sure.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. And, I've seen now many times where the junior doesn't mean junior in experience
No?
level. It might just mean, junior in project land.
Yep.
Like I've seen many people who are 20, 20 plus years in a career where they're an expert at something, and they are like, you know what, I have to run a project, or I would like to be part of this other program and get a little different dimension. And I feel like I have leadership skills. I've seen it with people re-entering the workforce as well, in those kinds of situations where they can be a great, project coordinator and so forth, get
Yep.
their feet wet on a project, deliver value, learn, and so forth. So junior doesn't always mean, an age.
Right. That's true.
Cool. So let's move on to pain point number 2, resources working on multiple projects. So we talked about the PM working on multiple projects. What about when our team members are spread across multiple projects?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to have a lot of the same concepts, a lot of the same thoughts. Is you as a project manager, you're working on multiple projects, and so are your resources. And so, what do you do about that, right? And why is that a problem? Well, multiple reasons, right? One is they're spread way too thin. Like we're seeing that across the board, right? They're just working on so many projects. They're context switching as well. But you see schedule delays, you see quality delays, you see things like, let's just hurry and get it done because I got 5 other projects I have to work on. It's a problem for project managers to really figure out how to get your resources working on your projects, giving you the top quality that they can produce for your particular project. Why are we in this, right? Like same thing is a lot of the same fundamentals of you, the project manager. There's pent up demand, but also where we were looking at this is around the time and the cost to bring someone on board and to onboard them. There's so many projects going, and it does take so long. And you were talking about quiet quitting and just trying to find resources and stuff. Now we got them. Now, how do we onboard them, and how do we onboard them properly, and to where they're able to be as effective as possible, as quick as possible, and then jumping on your projects? What
Yeah,
do you think, Bob?
definitely. And I want to point out this friendly little bullet here: day jobs / ops fires, because I have seen so many folks that are team members on someone's project, right? And then they're also supporting operations, and some fire will break out, the equivalent of some fire breaking out across the city. And the project manager says, hey, when can you get back to my project? And they say, I don't know, because I don't know how big that fire is, how ugly it is, how long it's going to take me to put that fire out. I'll get back to you. And the project manager says, what do I do? How am I supposed to manage this situation? So that is especially disruptive and makes it really hard for project managers to schedule and be confident in the schedules. And it makes it hard for the resources to be confident in their estimates. And so this is where the PMO really can come in and help the organization figure out what is their real capacity to do projects if they have people working on operations and projects both.
Yeah,
So
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
we
it's a
always see
big
that.
problem. You see
It
that
is.
too?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
100% we do. Yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so hard. If it's an operational fire, you got to go. It's an operational fire. You got to get to that fire, right? And projects take us, often take a second seat, if you would, to that fire. But what can you do about it? And so what do we encourage? We encourage schedules with resource plans. We
Mm-hmm.
can't stress enough having good, solid schedules. We use Project, but there's a lot of tools out there. But having resources, put in timesheets, put in, who's working on what, when are they working on them. And so having good solid schedules allows you to get that information and be able to tell that resource story, right? The
Right.
other thing too is this discovering conflicts proactively. Working between the project managers, you're using Bob the developer, I'm using Bob the developer. When are you using Bob? How are you using Bob, right? And really kind of having the project managers talking about the various resources, especially when they're on the existing projects, to have that and allow some overlaps or some gaps between the scheduling, so both projects get scheduled successfully.
Yeah, that one's huge. I actually had a team resource once who came to a project management class. He was a young professional, and he knew that he had leadership skills inside him, and he thought, I wonder if project management is right for me. So he came into one of my classes, and he started to laugh when we talked about this. And I said, what's so funny? Like, do I have something on my face? What could possibly be funny about this? He says, this happened to be yesterday. I, as a team member, was scheduled for an 8-hour day on the same day by 2 different project managers.
Yeah.
So I worked a 16-hour day yesterday because these guys didn't talk. And I was like, what a disaster. So, and guess what? Their organization did not have a PMO.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's the kind of stuff that can happen. And, luckily he was young and ambitious and a good person, and he did it, but very few people wouldn't be able to. So, so that was a real shame. Yeah. And it happens, unfortunately, all the time.
Yeah, and the one last one just before you go is relationships with resource managers. I think that's critical. I don't know if project managers really value getting that relationship with these resource managers and really firming up that relationship, because when you do that, you then instantly get a little bit more access to these resources, these developers and testers and all these various resources that you need when you build that solid relationship up, compared to not having that relationship, right?
Yeah,
It
and
becomes a lot harder.
absolutely. It certainly can't hurt. It's not going to
Right.
hurt anything if you start to have a good relationship with them. And, having a good relationship with them, developing. So how do you do that? Well, some of it is in being a good corporate citizen and giving them plenty of time and making sure that, your lack of planning doesn't become their emergency, as they say, and giving them as much time as you can, lead time to assign the right person, talk to them about maybe what kind of skills they're trying to develop in that person, in case you can give them an opportunity on your project to develop those skills and mentor them, and let them know when you're going to give that person back. And then send a nice note at the end that says, hey, I just want to say Bob was awesome. He did these particular things really well, and I appreciate his work so much. So if you are trying to develop relationships with resource managers, just put yourself in their shoes a little bit and say, well, gee, what might help them? And if I were the resource manager, what might I want from a project manager? And definitely you don't want to schedule that person on the same day as somebody else.
Yeah. No, that's a really nice note about sending a note. That's just a nice gem that a lot more project managers should really do to really build that great relationship.
Yeah. And and what I like to encourage folks to do too is, copy the person, copy Bob on that, right? Send it to the manager and copy Bob, so that Bob knows you tried to give him some kudos, because if it doesn't end up in his review like he expects, he can at least point to the note. So so there's some nice little techniques there. So let's talk about next pain point number 3, which I especially can't wait to hear from you on, which is project resource estimating, the bane of many of our existences.
This one is tough. And so why is it a problem? Well, first thing we put up there is projects are unique, right? Every project's so different, and so the estimating is such a challenge across this industry. We just have to get better at this. We have to keep refining, keep, moving that maturity model. But why? Like, why is this such a problem? Because, there's so many different types of estimating models. right? You've got Agile, you've got, think about, top down, bottom up, t-shirt sizing. I always love 3-point estimating, right? And so because there's so many different estimating models, it's just hard to get right. And we also have problems where we don't have all the information up front. And so maybe there's certain checkpoints in our project where we need to re-estimate. So this is just an industry problem across the board. And so, and you're seeing that obviously as well, right? But so many different methods, so many different ways. We don't have the information. You could name all these problems. It just go problem after problem. And it's just an industry-wide problem that a lot of project managers are facing.
Yeah, it definitely. And I happened to be on a session yesterday with Oliver Yardborough talking about artificial intelligence and project management offices. And one of the things that artificial intelligence may be able to help us with, we hope, is estimating, because there are a whole lot of opinions involved in estimating sometimes, where the data, once we get enough data and we can, get the machines to help us actually see it clearly and start to make decisions based on facts and not fiction or fantasy or, that'll be really helpful. And in the meantime, I also love the 3-point estimate. So you and I geeked
Yeah,
out about this a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah,
So on the right-hand side, you guys, you might see PERT. So
yeah.
let us know in chat if you've ever used PERT. Just say, just say yes or no, and let us know if you've used PERT before. But that's really that's something I learned the hard way. Is really, yeah, and many things I've learned the hard way. It's just maybe how I learn. But the what I love about it and the way I teach it is I tell folks there's an optimist, a pessimist, and a realist in the room a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you do have a group of folks who are battling about the estimates and they don't agree, and you think, I'm never going to get out of this room alive, then use PERT, because you get to include the optimist, the pessimist, and the realist by just having, giving the optimist a vote, the pessimist a vote, and 4 times the vote on the realist, divide by 6, and you have your average. And that actually worked for me. I was really in that situation a long time ago now, but I was really in that situation where I thought these guys are never going to agree. And I said, have you guys ever used PERT? And they're like, no, we don't know what that is. And I showed them the formula. And, I was a math major and I have a mathematics degree, and some of them were super geeks too. And they were like, oh, that's cool. And so we did it. And I said, can you guys live with this? And they said, yes, because the math did it for them.
Yeah.
Right. That worked for them. So anyway, I loved it that you love that thing too.
Well, and there's great software out there now, right? There's software that does it on your schedule. There's software that does it on your budget. It's called Monte Carlo simulation. I absolutely love it. It's to die for. And there's some great products out there that
Yes.
are doing that. So, it's something to really consider on large schedules, large
Definitely.
financials. It's worth
Great
looking
tip.
into.
Great
Is-
pro tip there. So
yeah.
let's move into
Hey,
number 4, which is project teams working across hybrid, waterfall, agile, all the
I love
things.
this.
Bill,
I
what's
love
happening
this
here?
one because when does Agile go live? 2001. We're 22 years later and we're still figuring this out, right? And so I love this because it's not the end all be all. We're really struggling. The problem is we have not completely changed the mindset of all the leadership to go all in with Agile. We haven't. We also have to look at the industries, right? And it's not going to work across all these industries. We hope it will work. We can pretend it will work. It's not going to work. It's 22 years in and we have not nailed that yet. So the problem is we have to keep multiple models. The problem is large software companies continue to run multiple models. And as teams, as resources, as project managers, you may actually have to work on hybrid here, waterfall here, DevOps here, Agile here. And that's just tough. When we put context switching up at the very top, and we mean context switching because you're literally figuring out the model to which you're driving for this particular project. It's a huge problem.
It is a huge problem for the organizations who are still in this figuring it out stage. I mean, we've definitely worked with organizations that really have embraced Agile, that have done an amazing job with it, that are doing it right, that have found great success with it. But they are the tip of the iceberg,
Yeah.
I think. Right. And so the context switching, there have been studies that have said, and I certainly, when I used to teach Agile at very large organizations, there was a slide where I would ask people, how many people are on one project? Maybe one hand in the room would go up. And then how many people are on two projects? Couple of hands go up. How many people are on three or more projects? The rest of the hands go up, right? And I say, I'm sorry to hear that, because you just lost a whole lot of productivity. And in fact, some studies have shown that you lose 20% of your productivity every time you context switch. And this situation, number 4, exacerbates that, because it's not just that you're like, oh, where was I the last time I was working on this project? Because now I'm working on Bill's project and I was working on Dawn's project. Like, where was I again? And you lose that time, and you have to get your momentum going, like if anybody remembers the Flintstone like cartoons, like where the legs are going and then it goes after a little bit, right? I have to actually see my dog do this on when she's going after an iguana in Florida. It's hilarious. And then goes, it's like you need a minute to really figure out. And it's a lot of times it's a lot more than a minute until you can get back in that zone. So that's what we mean, everybody, when we talk about context switching here, and the loss of productivity when people are on multiple things and switching, especially between different methods. Yeah.
So the why is because we're not all convinced, like you said, the 2%. And then, some of the solutions are, you have to know the methodologies. You really should be familiar in all those methodologies if you're going to work in those environments, right? But also leverage some of the good things that Agile has brought, right? There are some amazing things about Agile, like the daily stand-up. You can use daily stand-ups on Waterfall projects. Like, you can take all the goodness that Agile brings, and use those, right, as across the different types of projects.
Yeah,
I am not anti-Agile by no means.
Right, exactly. And back in the day, we used to call some of it common sense.
That's true.
Right. So, I mean, before Agile was really a thing, I remember, a CFO saying, make it go faster. How do you make it go faster? And so we started to do iterations and show, where we could, and show his team what, we were starting to deliver and get that feedback. And like, that just seemed like common sense at the time. And now we have a name for it, which is awesome. So some of the advice I like to give is if you are running a waterfall project, or if you are running a, sort of a hybrid environment, and people are open to new techniques, and why wouldn't they be if it's going to help them, lessen their pain, then say something like, let's take a page out of the Agile playbook and try a daily stand-up, or try planning poker, or try, any number of these wonderful things that now have a name that maybe we used to call common sense. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I mean, I managed my first project in 91, in 93, 94, 95. We used to have prototyping. So, right. And that was long before Agile even existed. We had prototyping where people could see what they were going to get. And so many iterations of development methodologies, right? And so, like you said, common sense, but again, Agile's brought a lot of goodness to the table. There's no question.
It has. And so for any of you that may have been in a situation where the company that you're working for tried Agile before and they said it doesn't work, let me give you a little hint. Maybe what happened is they tried to put Agile in. They didn't do it in its pure sense and then try to figure it out first. They morphed it to what they thought would work for them, and they did it wrong. And now they're blaming Agile, and they're like, Agile doesn't work here. I would often this is the root cause when we go in and assess organizations as to why Agile didn't work here. So just
no, that's a great point. Great point. But that's why we have hybrid. That's why we don't just have Waterfall. We don't just have Agile. We have this hybrid, which is really trying to be the best of both worlds, right?
Right, exactly, exactly. So let's get to number 5, and don't forget,
Yep.
everybody, we have a bonus one and the summary of some of these themes that you are already starting to see, I'm sure. So number 5, this is a real tough one in this virtual environment for folks that are trying to influence by authority. So let's talk about keeping project resources engaged. What's going on?
Yeah, so again, right, COVID really drove this remoteness. But again, we've been doing remote since 2000, right? So when Y2K hit, we've already been doing remote project management. The difference is when everyone went home, but project managers have been doing remote project management for a long time. So again, problem is it's all about connecting with people. It's all about having the camera turned on. It's all about influence without authority, right? It's all about that connection. And when you don't connect, you've got folks in India, you've got folks in China, you've got folks all over the world. If you leave them disconnected and you don't, as a project manager, proactively connect with them, they will disengage. Right, you've got to be constantly connecting with them, keeping your cameras on, keeping that personal connection going, so you can keep them engaged and keep them energized about the project.
Definitely. And remember their plate too, which we talked about
Yep.
before, is they're stretched too thin, in many cases. They might be, there have been some people who have really loved the ability to work from home, and other people, it doesn't really work for them. I've been working with some clients where, they might have small children at home. It's hard to
Yeah.
work when if you have a toddler at home, they don't get it that, mommy or daddy or auntie, in my case, needs to work right now. So just be maybe a little bit more sensitive than you would normally want to be, or could be, or have to be if you're in the workplace together, that people have stuff happening and you just never know really what is happening with people. So the more you can become a trusted advisor to them, a trusted colleague to them, the better you will be in getting insights into, well, what would work for them and how can you help them? Because one of the things I love about Agile is they talk about servant leadership. And I always felt like that was the way to go for project managers, that, some people think, oh, the project manager is there to delegate to other people. I'm like, well, the project manager is there to help the team succeed and help the sponsor look like a superstar. And, really, and so when I learned later about this term called servant leadership, I thought, oh, that's really beautiful. That's what we should be emulating a little bit more.
Yeah, which is one of the top solutions, right? Set vision for the project culture. You as a project manager will drive whether it's a miserable team or it's an amazing team, right? You have that power to drive that. And so, having empathy, as Angel says, and others, there's really around setting that goodness for how you're driving your project forward, because you said that. The
I
other
love
really
it.
quick thing is maintaining goals, right? When
Mhm.
people are thousands of miles away, they do have to have goals, right? Or 100 miles away or 5 miles away, they have to have goals. And that should be how you as a project manager try to drive your project. What are the goals? Are we setting the goals? Are we maintaining those goals?
Yeah, and I just love what you said there, because I feel like even if you're in a toxic environment, even if you work in a toxic workplace culture, and I'm sorry if you do, but even if you do that, you can create your own little project bubble, then your own project culture. You kind of set that aside, and actually being out of the office helps us do that more easily. So definitely think about that, everybody. So bonus tip, shall we lay it on them? Go
Yeah.
ahead, Bill.
Being set up to fail. So what does that mean? Being set up to fail. We don't want you to be set up to fail. What we want to really talk through is, do you have the right training? Are you set up to be able to execute your projects in the best manner? And like, do you have everything you need to be successful? And does your team have everything need to be successful? Right. And so a lot of times, we said it earlier, is just get on this project, just get going, just get the thing started. But we're like, I don't know what I'm managing. I don't have any idea or any context to this. So we're really hoping that your companies are giving you the right training, you have the right experience, and you're really set up so you don't fail and you can drive successful projects.
Awesome. Yeah, that's right. And the request to invest. So let's talk about that. I kind of love the language there. Request to invest. So what that means is if you are seeing some systemic problems where you're like, all of us project managers are beating our head against the same wall, then perhaps we need to request different tools, different training, an offsite where we actually do get people together and we make the trip and we make the time. So think about, is there anything you're seeing that you can request that the organization invest in to help make sure that you're set up for success and not failure? Some cases that might just be training for yourself, right? And how to navigate Projectland better and in this new world. So
let me just talk about that real quick, because I love that point. Is it's your career, right? Companies should pay if they're requiring you to do, iOS development, you're a developer, have them, or they want you to do Agile and you need Agile training, they should pay. But if they don't pay, it's still your career. You own your career. So maybe you buy a book, maybe you take a course, right? Because you have to take your career in your own hands because it's your career. I think that's a real key takeaway.
It is. And we have all the good people here, especially at the odd hours, who are investing in their careers right now by spending time with us. So a great tip, and probably, singing to the choir a little bit on that one for some of these folks who I know are ambitious professionals. And thank you all once again for joining us for our 5 top pain points. But because we like to over deliver, we added a bonus. We just couldn't help ourselves. So let us know. Let's pause here. Let us know in chat, which ones of these are you seeing in your organization the most? Which pain are you feeling the most? So just with the number, 1, 3, 4, please let us know what you're seeing and feeling. We'd love to know that. And additionally, if any others come to mind, please continue to add them in and upvote those for those of you who are say, yep, me too, on the other ones. So just want to give you a chance to write in which ones you're seeing where you work. Right. So part of that is once you decide what you're seeing, now let's talk about what you're going to do about what you learned today. So Bill, let's start to talk about that, and then we'll double back on what we're seeing from folks in the chat.
Sure. Yeah. So one of the first things is that like we had said, unless it's a massive project, you're going to work on multiple projects. So some of the things that we had taken or we had said is really some best practices that you're going to have to do, right? You're going to have to get repeatable process set up. You're going to have to get structure set up, but really embrace that multiple project scenario, that multiple project world that you're going to be in. Number 2 is around context switching, right? And so, so what we said is embrace that, because context switching is painful, right? And Don talked about how switching and how you lose such time when you are working on multiple projects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The next one's developing a process of getting resources, right? And so when we think about resource estimating, pick a model, right? Get a model that has worked. And then, if possible, try to stick with that model and keep maturing and keep driving through that model. If you're going to use PERT, use PERT. You're going to use t-shirt sizing, to use t-shirt sizing, but continue to refine, continue to tweak to really make that even better as you keep executing through your projects.
Yeah, and I just want to add in there, where we say factor in work on multiple projects. Don't assume someone is full-time if they're not full-time. Ask the question, how much time on average do you feel you can spend on this project, given everything else on your plate? 25%, 1 day a week, 2 days a week? What can I expect from you? Because then you can model your schedule around what the actual availability is, because the hope and the prayer is not a good plan. I don't think.
Right. We talked about remote project management. That's here to stay. We've been doing it for 23 years, but it is here to stay. So what do? We amp up our personal skills. We amp up our leadership without authority, right? We amp up turning the camera on, connecting with people, really having those personal connections so they stay engaged, they stay wanting to be part of your project, get training, read books, right? Seek a mentor coach, really drive through and say, it's your career. How do I keep driving my career? And then finally embrace the hybrid, right? That too, unless you're an all waterfall world or an all agile world, you're probably through your life and your career are going as hybrid for a while. And so embrace that, understand what hybrid means, understand the goodness of waterfall, the goodness of agile, and how do you marry those two worlds together to deliver a successful project.
Beautiful. Yeah, those were really some of the key themes we saw, everybody, as we were going through it. And so just wanted to sort of summarize some of those key ideas for what you can do with this, but you may have other ideas for what you'd like to try or what you'd like to do with this, where you'd like to apply a little pressure, for instance, to make this pain go away. So please share that with us. Share your action ideas for what you might do. You're much more likely to do it if you actually share it. There's been some studies about that. So please share that with us. Okay. So I'd love to know also, do you feel that we have accomplished our objectives today? We're talking about the pain points, why we're in this situation, and giving you some key tips to avoid or get out of these situations if you happen to be in them. So please let us know about that. How do you feel about it? And in a moment, we'll be sharing how you can get potentially a free pass to my Udemy course, a lifetime pass to my Udemy course. And in the meantime, I'd like you to please connect with Bill. You can learn more from him. Like we said, he has 6 books. So check out his website, Bill Dow, PMOtraining.com. Connect with him on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. Let people know that you learned something today from Bill, or you enjoyed the session. Please let folks know. It helps us to serve more folks that need our support. And you can even email Bill. He's provided his email here if you have specific questions and how he might be able to support you or your organization. Bill, anything more to say about this? Are there any places that you'd especially like more followers or something?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. So please connect and follow Bill, since we're on LinkedIn today, on LinkedIn for sure. So let's double check our Q&A and some of the feedback that we've gotten so far. Anything, Bill, that you want to address?
Jesse wants to retire. I like that. I think, like I said, we've experienced this for years. It's things that we just got to keep turning that dial. And so hopefully this was helpful for people.
I always learn from you, Bill, and I appreciate you being on here so much. And so with that, I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank all our participants. Pass to my lifetime subscription to my Udemy course, which is called, and it's launched it less than a year ago with the pros at Udemy, and over 85 countries. It has lots of opportunities for translations too. So there are subtitles. If you have a global team, the subtitles might be really helpful to get them all on the same page. And the really cool part that I love is the videos are only 5 minutes. So if you need that little refresher, or you want to share a concept with a mentee or someone on your team and talk about what that means. So here's what you do. Aims on our contact us page, go to PMOtraining.com. Contact yourself to our newsletter, and you will, of course, our community. So go to the contact us page and add your name to our newsletter, and you can be, if you're one of the first 10 folks that do that, you will get to the free course. So I think Ricardo has added the link to make it easier for you in the chat as well. Thank you, Ricardo. And with that, thank you, Bill.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Always love spending time with you.
Same here. So let's talk soon. And again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us and being a member of our community. Please follow Project Guru Academy so that you get alerted about more LinkedIn live sessions like this one with the gurus in the future. Thank you, and bye for now.
Thanks.